Covered why She-Hulk exists, which was because of trademarking and rumors that the Incredible Hulk show wanted a female Hulk spinoff. To untangle the web of trademarking that is a story of how Spider-Woman came to be. And if you're here after that very cringy pun, consider subscribing and liking this video. Morning cartoons included a Batman and Tarzan hour. This hour would later extend to more DC adjacent characters. What I mean by adjacent characters, I mean characters who DC technically owns, but aren't considered DC. It's like Bugs Bunny and Roadrunner, those kind of things. One of these new characters would be a female superhero named Spider-Woman. But Stan Lee wasn't a fan, as Marvel had Spider-Man, and it was a very clear ripoff of his character. So, side note, there's actually a Legion villain from DC called Spider-Girl, which I found weird, so I thought I'd just mention it as I'm about to tell you what happened next. Marvel will quickly introduce their own Spider-Woman into comics. In Marvel Spotlight issue 32 in 1977, she would be Jessica Drew, a spider who was transformed into a woman. This origin would be retconned hard later on, actually just directly right after this issue, for obvious reasons, because this was the Bronze Age of comics. That whole spider turning into a woman was not going to fly with modern audiences. Now having a Spider-Woman of their own, DC couldn't own the trademark, meaning the Spider-Woman character from their Batman Tarzan hour will be renamed Web-Woman, who you probably never heard of. And for good reason. I watched a couple clips of the show before I made this video, and honestly, in my opinion, it's not the best. Definitely not as good as Batman the Animated Series, which I know is not the Batman show that it was being paired with. That was just the only, comparison I could think of, because just seeing how great Batman the Animated Series is and how not so great Web-Woman was. Television starring Jessica Drew as Spider-Woman was also put into production in order to protect the trademark. But comic Spider-Woman was actually meant to be a one and done, but fans really liked her. So she would be given her own comic series. This comic suffered hard, swapping out writers. Swapping out writers isn't uncommon, but over a half a dozen writers within 50 issue is. Marvel would pull the plug on the comic at issue 50, and her final issue would be her last hurrah as they killed her off, which didn't go well with some fans. Meanwhile, on her show, which only lasted 16 episodes, she was given a supporting cast that wasn't in the comics, including a really annoying child, which I did not like, whose name I can't remember on the top of my head, in fact. And the only comic book characters who even made their way onto the show was Spider-Woman herself. Spider-Man, which was weird because the two had nothing in common in the comics. But since she didn't really have any villains of her own yet, they gave her other villains. These villains include Dracula, probably moved to Spider-Woman to avoid Moon Knight wanting his money back, as well as Kingpin and Dormammu. I get why she needed villains, but why not Spider-Man villains? Why did they give her a Blade villain, a Doctor Strange villain, and a Daredevil villain? Also, I want to note on the show, they pronounced Dormammu's name Dormammu, which when I first saw the episode, I thought she was mocking him, but it turns out that was his actual name on the show. He was also given a very different design with a green type pentagram look. One back in the comics would be resurrected in Avengers comics, after fan backlash for killing her character off. Jessica Drew isn't the only Spider-Woman. Julia Carpenter would become the Spider-Woman in Secret Wars. Charlotte Witter would be a villain named Spider-Woman, created by Dr. Octopus. In the fourth was Mattie Franklin, and the fifth was Veronk, a Skrull pretending to be Jessica. In the comics currently, Julia is Madam Web. Charlotte Witter died, I think. I'm a little confused about the whole story arc about when she was going after the other Spider-Woman. I think she died. But either way, she's been out of comics for almost 2 decades. Mattie Franklin was killed by Kraven and stayed dead, while Veronk was only a double agent for the Skrulls. Therefore, Jessica is back as Spider-Woman. I think it's for the best. While Veronk and Charlotte Witter were both villains, Mattie Franklin and Julia Carpenter, for me, never really worked as Spider-Woman. Julia Carpenter, in my opinion, is at her best as either Madam Web or Arachna, while Mattie Franklin adds on to be boring. Jessica Drew, since her inception, has done more than you think. She'd fight Morgan Le Fay, join the Avengers, join SWORD, become best friends with Carol Danvers, and be trained by Taskmaster. What do you think of Spider-Woman? Do you like her? Which Spider-Woman is your favorite? Or do you hate them all? Also, I didn't include any Spider-Girls on this list, as they didn't have anything to do with the trademark, but I do like Anna Corazon. I think that's how to pronounce her name. And I also really like Mayday Parker. Despite her brief time being called Spider-Woman, Spider-Gwen or Ghost Spider is another favorite of mine. Also, sorry, Matty Franklin fans, if I offended any of you for saying I dislike your character. But that's just my opinion. So, like always, I'll see you guys later.